I'm John Buchanan, and in this video we're going to look at working with PedalBoard for non-guitarists. Now, whenever we think about amps and pedals, we immediately think about bass players and guitarists in particular and the way that they like to affect the tone of their guitars in order to produce sort of distorted tones or in some way affect their instrument in order to kind of fit it into guitar-based productions. But actually at the moment there's quite an interesting little revolution going on with people bringing hardware stomp boxes to their electronic music productions in all sorts of contexts. And PedalBoard allows us to do this in the sort of virtual space, and it's one of Logic's best sort of secret weapon plugins. And what we're going to do in this video is to start working with PedalBoard on a non-guitar based production. So firstly, let's just hear the track in question. Okay, so we've got this sort of 8-bar loop, and what I want to do is to work on this piano part. So in particular, what I want to do is to start thinking a little bit about adding some power and some drive and maybe a little bit of distortion to this piano part to make it sort of pop within the mix a little bit more and drive a bit harder. There's a lot of aggression coming from the beats and the sort of bass line, but the piano is getting a bit lost. And an interesting way to do that, which is maybe a little bit out of the box, would be to look at trying to do that with PedalBoard. So let's just dive into Logic's plugins, and what we'll find in our list down here is right up at the top we've got amps and pedals, and PedalBoard is here at the bottom of that list. So when we first open up PedalBoard, what we're greeted with is this interface which has got this sort of empty space, and to the right hand side a whole series of stomp boxes or pedals that we can simply just drag in to start working in this kind of modular way. The sound comes in at the left hand side, passes through the first pedal, onto the second, onto the third and fourth, and then the sound is outputted sort of at the end of that process. So what we can do is to build this kind of modular chain of effects, one after another, to affect the tone. So what I've done is to solo the piano, and I'm just going to put a loop around it so we can hear it play round and round. And I want to first of all start thinking about sort of roughing this sound up a little bit. So I'm going to grab Monster Fuzz, which is the first pedal that I want to add. And you can see that all I have to do is to drag it from the list and just drop it over here on the left-hand side of the interface. And straight away I've added a pedal to PedalBoard. So let's just configure a little bit of tone here using Monster Fuzz just to get this sound to be a little bit more aggressive. So what I've done there is to sort of go through each of the individual parameters, these little dials that I've got available, to kind of explore the options as far as each one of those is concerned. So you can see that I've got control over roar and growl and the overall tone and texture and grain and level. And what's so great about PedalBoard is that you'll find that the options per pedal are relatively limited. And that's actually a good thing. It means that very quickly you can find out whether or not a pedal has the capability to do the thing that you want it to do in the context of trying to change your sound. Let's keep going. I'm going to add a second pedal. And this time I'm going to add some grit with the grit pedal, which is here. And again, I can just drop it into the next available slot. And what we're starting to do now is to work in this modular way that I described. We've got the sound coming in, the piano coming in. It's first of all going into Monster Fuzz, and now it's going to pass on into the grit pedal next. Now, like guitar stomp boxes, what I've got at the bottom of each pedal is a power button. And what this allows me to do is if I were actually sort of, I had these pedals out on the floor in front of me and I had the opportunity to literally stomp on them to turn them on and off, I can do the same thing here. And you can see the little light at the top will engage to show you whether or not a pedal is active. And that's really useful as you add more pedals. If I want to hear what Grit's doing without Monster Fuzz, I can turn off Monster Fuzz and just hear the Grit pedal by itself without having to remove it altogether. And I can also see how the level dials from one pedal to the next are obviously going to affect volume as the sound is outputted from one module and then passed into the next. So there's one more pedal I want to add, which is a sort of slightly wonky, interesting tape delay, which is here within this delay pedal. And the reason why I like this one so much is because it allows me to produce reversed delays. So rather than echoes that are just kind of perfect fading repeats of the input signal, instead those sounds are sort of sampled and reversed, and we get this slightly more smeared quality. And what's quite nice as well about working with delay is the opportunity to sync it. So in other words, the delay time just goes from being a certain number of milliseconds to being a kind of quantized value. So in other words, the delays are going to be in time with my track, and I can select that here. And as I go through the various options, I can see that I've got eighth notes and dotted eighth notes and quarter notes and various other things too. Feedback is going to control the number of delay taps that I get. So that's going to control how many individual delays or echoes I'm going to hear before the sound dies. And I've got an overall mix dial here as well, setting the balance between the dry signal and the wet signal, the delayed signal. And up at the top, I've got filters, both for cutting out low frequency content and high frequency content. I've got a dirt dial, which is going to rough up these delays, and the amount of flutter, which is sort of like an unusual little sort of pitch warp in the middle of the sort of delay itself, which is just going to slightly add some sort of tape artifact sort of pitch flutter to the sound overall. Let's introduce tape delay. What we'll do is to bypass the two previous modules. So we're just hearing the delay by itself, and then we'll put them back in. We can hear those delays really nicely when I press stop. Okay, so let's now have a listen and just see how the whole track sounds now that we've added this extra aggression to this piano part. Okay, so it's making a huge difference. You can hear now when I bypass the effects of the original piano and how sort of tame that sounds in comparison. And it's possible that I've slightly overdone it with the distortion, but of course we can back those settings down if we want to, or if we like them, we can simply just turn the fader down on the mixer for this particular instrument to keep all of that aggression, but just to make the piano a bit quieter. So within this video, what we've done is we've looked at working with PedalBoard for non-guitarists. You don't have to be a guitarist to benefit from PedalBoard and all of these stomp boxes and the way that you can configure them to create really interesting modular chains of effects for all kinds of productions.